Hello and welcome viewers. You're watching this special presentation of Sansad TV on India's maritime potential. In this edition, we will explore how India is emerging as a driving force in the maritime sector. Come along. The importance of the maritime domain for India's security, stability, economic well-being and sustainable development needs no emphasis and is underlined by its rich maritime heritage dating back 5,000 years. The world's oldest dry dock has been excavated at Lothal, which dates back to the Harappan civilization. As India now stands on the threshold of becoming a 21st century global economic powerhouse and has set a target of becoming $5 trillion economy by 2025, it is aiming at $25 billion from the maritime zone, in accordance with the global standard of about 5%. With the target of achieving $10 trillion economy by 2032, the maritime sector will have a major contribution to make. India is strategically located on world's shipping routes with a long coastline of about 7,517 kilometers. 14,500 kilometers of potentially navigable waterways. India's maritime sector contributes to 95% of India's trade by volume and 70% by value. We have over 200 major and minor ports. India has launched the Sagarmala project to enhance port-led development. With INS Vikrant's commissioning, India joins an elite league of nations to have built aircraft carrier indigenously. Number of projects under the Sagarmala program have been enhanced to 1,537, taking the total worth to about 6.5 lakh crore. India has plans to invest $82 billion in port projects by 2035. Maritime security is of utmost significance to the world community as there are maritime concerns ranging from piracy at sea to illegal immigration and weapon smuggling. For India, maritime security is an important aspect of national security. The Indian Navy patrols the international maritime boundary line, while the Indian Coast Guard is mandated to do patrolling and surveillance up to 200 nautical miles, that is the exclusive economic zone. Simultaneously, the State Coastal Marine Police performs boat patrolling in shallow coastal areas. The State Coastal Police have jurisdiction up to 12 nautical miles from the coast, and the Indian Coast Guard and Indian Navy have jurisdiction over the entire maritime zone up to 200 nautical miles, including the territorial waters. India has time and again reiterated its commitment to respecting the rights of all nations as per the UN Convention on Law of Sea 1982. The UN Convention, Law of Sea, also known as the Law of Sea, divides marine zones. This law divides marine areas into 5 main zones, namely internal waters, territorial sea, contiguous zone, exclusive economic zone, and the high seas. Maritime transport is a critical infrastructure for the social and economic development of our country and has a multiplier effect on trade and income generation, propelling economic growth. It influences the pace, structure, and pattern of development. The maritime sector in India comprises ports, shipping, shipbuilding, ship repair, and inland water transport systems. India has a rich maritime heritage, and the earliest reference to maritime activities is contained in Rig Veda. There is plenty of evidence derived from Indian literature, art, sculptures, painting, and archaeology to establish the existence of Indian maritime traditions. A study of country's maritime history reveals that Indian subcontinent exercised supremacy over the Indian Ocean from very early times up to the 13th century. Most cargo ships that sailed between East Asia and America, Europe, and Africa passed through Indian territorial waters. The port sector in India is being driven by high growth in external trade. All ports are situated in the 9 coastal states of Kerala, Karnataka, Maharashtra, Goa, Gujarat, West Bengal, Odisha, Andhra Pradesh, and Tamil Nadu. India's extended coastline forms one of the major portions of land that juts out into a water body. 13 major ports in the country handle major volume of containers and cargo traffic. On the west coast, there are ports of Mumbai, Kandla, Mangalore, JNPT, Murmugo, and Cochin. The ones on the east coast are ports of Chennai, Tuticorin, Vishakhapatnam, Paradeep, Kolkata, and Ennore. In Andaman and Nicobar Islands, there is Port Blair. Mumbai is the largest natural port in India. In financial year 2022, all key ports in India handled 650.52 million tons of cargo traffic. The Maritime India Vision 2030, a 10-year blueprint with the aim of overhauling the Indian maritime sector, envisages 3 lakh crore investment in port projects that in turn promises to generate employment for 20 lakh persons. It envisages developing mega-capacity ports in high-potential areas of Gujarat, Maharashtra, Odisha, and West Bengal cluster at an investment of 80,000 crore. There are plans to increase the transshipment volumes of Indian cargo at Indian ports from 25% in 2020 to more than 75% by 2030. Also, the policy focuses on Make in India, Make for the World, and thereby becoming the leading shipbuilding country by 2030 through 15 times increase in the gross tonnage of ship built in India. It envisages setting up a maritime development fund to provide low-cost, long-term funding to maritime sector stakeholders, besides enhancing cruise infrastructure by developing dedicated cruise terminals at selected ports. The maritime domain is also critical for India's energy security, which in turn has direct impact on country's economy. More than 80% of India's oil and over 50% of India's gas is sourced from various ports of the world and travels over the sea. More than 60% of this is imported from Arabian Gulf. On the indigenous front, most of India's critical energy infrastructure is either located afloat or on the coast, thus increasing its vulnerability from the sea. The shipbuilding sector's growth not only holds economic significance but also contributes to India's strategic autonomy, ensuring a secure and resilient maritime trade infrastructure. Shipbuilding acts as a catalyst for overall industrial growth due to spin-offs to other industries, including steel, engineering equipment, port infrastructure, trade, and shipping. The history of shipbuilding is a fascinating journey that spans thousands of years, reflecting the evolution of human civilization and the exploration of world's oceans. Throughout history, shipbuilding has been an essential driver of global trade, exploration, and cultural exchange. Today, shipbuilding remains a crucial industry, supporting international commerce, naval defense, and maritime exploration across the globe. The Indian shipbuilding industry can be broadly categorized into large ocean-going vessels catering to overseas as well as coastal trade, medium-sized specialized vessels like port craft, shipping trawlers, offshore vessels, inland and other smaller crafts, defense and naval crafts, and coast guard vessels. At the time of independence, there were about a dozen shipyards around Kolkata and Mumbai, which rose to around 45 shipyards in late 70s. At present, there are 30 shipyards, out of which 8 shipyards are in the public sector and the rest are in the private sector. The demand for ships, semi-submersibles and port auxiliary vessels, new shipbuilding as well as ship repair activities are projected to grow in view of rising cargo traffic from and to India in coming years. Major shipyards and R&D facilities in the public sector include Cochin Shipyard Limited, Hooghly Dock and Port Engineers, Hindustan Shipyard Limited, Mazagon Dock Limited, Garden Reach Shipbuilders and Engineers, and Goa Shipyard Limited. The technological and engineering marvel, 3 acres of sovereign territory, floating airfield, India's maritime diplomacy and power projection in Indian Ocean, India's first indigenous aircraft carrier, INS Vikrant, is a tribute to the rising spirits of India on the world horizon. With the commissioning of INS Vikrant on 2 September 2022, India entered into a select band of nations having the niche capability to indigenously design and build an aircraft carrier. It is a testimony to the country's resolve to achieve self-reliance. Here's how India is maximizing the benefits of blue economy. The blue economy of India is a subdivision of the national economy that includes the complete ocean resources system as well as human-made economic infrastructure in the country's legal jurisdiction, marine, maritime, onshore coastal zones. India's blue economy concept is multifaceted and plays an important role in country's economic growth because of its enormous maritime interests. India's blue economy accounts for roughly 4% of the GDP and is estimated to increase once the mechanism is improved. The sector has stood strong despite the challenges caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Shipping is also significant in the current world as 80% by volume and 70% by value of the world trade happens on the ships. It may not be wrong to call it as a prime mover of development, export and import for a country. If India has to be a global player in the world's supply chain network, it has to become a hub of manufacturing in the shipbuilding industry, and it shall provide a major boost to the policies. It may not be wrong to call it a prime mover of development, export and import for a country. If India has to be a global player in the world's supply chain network, it has to become a hub of manufacturing in the shipping industry. From constructing patrol craft and smaller vessels to frontline ships, including submarines, destroyers, frigates, and aircraft carrier, Indian shipbuilding has taken significant strides. Yet, there is more to be done. Future maritime operations are likely to require a higher quantum of rapid response assets. Shipyards will need to maintain a high tempo of production and equip themselves for shorter repair schedules. The shipbuilding and shipping sectors offer immense potential to galvanize the Indian economy and strengthen the manufacturing sector. It will require a whole-of-government approach, proactive participation by shipyards, industry, and the services sector, together to realize the huge latent potential of India's shipbuilding and shipping industry.